In example 26, we have to find the slope of the line passing through 2 points, A, which is -3, 2, and B, -5, 7. So keep in mind that when we write the numbers like this, the order does matter. So we always write the x first and the y after. So the x first and the y after. And in this particular problem, we have to use the formula, which is the rise over the run formula. Since we're looking for the slope, what we have to do is recall that the formula basically says, do the y2 minus the y1 divided by the x2 minus the x1 ones. In my case, I'm going to call A x1, y1. Why is that? Well, because I saw it first, and since I'm calling the -3 x1, I have to choose the same label for the 2, but remember 2 is the y, so I should call it y1. And similarly, the 5 on B would be the x2, whereas the 7 would be the y2. Now remember, there's nothing sacred about the -3, 2 or -5 and 7. They could be any numbers they want. As long as you choose A to be x1, then the 2 has to be the y1, but you can also go and call the -3 x2, in which case the 2 would be y2. So again, in this case, all we have to do is subtract a couple of numbers. So the y2 is 7, the y1 is 2, so 7 minus 2. The x2 is -5, so I'm going to put that first. And then the x1 is -3. So again, be careful because the formula has a minus and the x1 itself is also negative. So let's clean this up a little bit. So 7 minus 2 on top and -5 plus 3 on the bottom. So this is going to be 5 divided by -2. So the slope in this case of the line is 5 over -2, which is also known as -5 over 2, which is also known as -5 all divided by 2. So it doesn't matter how you write it, either one of these three things is perfectly acceptable. Now oftentimes when somebody says find the slope, the next follow-up question is usually to find the equation of the line. So how do you find the equation of the line? That's what this table is supposed to help you with. So in order to find the equation of a line passing through some random point or points, you would start by finding the slope, which is what we just did. Then you would use something called the point slope formula. So in this case, I don't really have to work very hard for this. They gave me A, which is -3 and 6. They told me M is 3. So recall the point slope formula, which says y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So keep in mind that the x1 is the x-coordinate of the point, whereas the y1 is the y-coordinate of the point, and m is the slope of the line. So sometimes you have to find the slope yourself, sometimes it's given to you on a silver platter, just like in this problem. So in this case, all I have to do is plug in some random numbers, and keep in mind that the x and the y don't change. It's only the x1 and the y1s that change, and the m also. So be careful in this case because the x1 itself is -3 and there's already a negative there. And so because of that, I would like to be more careful and write some parentheses around the -3. So that's acceptable notation. When you put double negatives like that next to one another, it looks really weird. So make sure to separate them with some parentheses. So in any case, this is y minus 6, and then 3x minus minus is going to be plus. And let's FOIL everything out. So this will be 3x plus 9. Then finally, isolate the letter y by moving the 6 over. So to move the 6 over, I just have to add 6 to both sides. 9 plus 6 will be 15. And this format, where the letter y is all by itself with no numbers next to it, no negatives, no nothing, is called the slope-intercept form. And why is it called the slope-intercept form of the line? It's called that way because the number you're seeing in front of the x is the slope of the line, and the number 15 represents the place where the line would cross the y-axis. That's why we call this the slope-intercept form.